is now being exposed in New Zealand in its two main parties. 3 suspects are facing trial for donations to the country's National Party and for links to funding to its Labour Party. These are again the 2 main political parties in New Zealand. And so with a broader picture of this, the Chinese Communist Party does operations like this, political warfare operations and influence operations in most countries, including, say, the Five Eyes countries, New Zealand, Australia, UK, Canada, the United States. They are extremely aggressive with this in many countries. You might remember the Sidewinder report in Canada, actually more than a decade ago now. A report came out from the Canadian intelligence agencies warning that the Chinese Communist Party had gained influence over different politicians in the country, and also talked about the different operations the CCP had to infiltrate and subvert the country. That was called out. Now, a lot of pushback was made against that, for example, because it was called racist. And that was a clear example of one of the CCP's main strategies: strangle you with your own systems. They look for, say, weaknesses within the country's culture, weaknesses within the country's common forms of debate, and they exploit those weaknesses. It is easy to say you cannot criticize me because doing so is racist. And that's exactly what the CCP did in Canada. It's exactly what they do in a lot of different countries. But the issue of political influence and the CCP controlling different politicians came to the forefront in Canada during that time. And that issue now has become an international discussion. We see, for example, in Australia, the Chinese Communist Party is being called out for influencing its politics as well. And there are many different politicians in Australia who are being called out for having these ties. And even in the United States, this is becoming an issue as well, where different politicians or their family members are found to have ties financially to the Chinese Communist Party. In other words, there is concern in the United States right now that different U.S. officials may have illicit ties to the CCP. And a big question now is what is given in exchange for these different benefits. If they did in fact receive these things in exchange for something, what did they give in exchange for that? Well, we could be looking at something very serious here, where politicians in many countries of the world have betrayed their own people on behalf of a foreign hostile government. They have betrayed their own people on behalf of the CCP, and they've sold out the interests of their own people to a foreign government. This has happened in many countries. We've known this has happened in many countries. The big question is how prevalent is this issue, and for example, has it been taking place in the United States, and to what extent? We do have cases of this. There have been cases of it. We see it happening now in U.S. academia. We see it happening now in U.S., say, research and development. And based on my research, different things I've been working on exposing over the years, the full picture of this is massive. On the broader picture of this, when it comes to the CCP, they have 2 different branches of their government dedicated to this. One is the General Political Department, the Liaison Department under the Chinese military. They have a military department dedicated to political warfare. Many of those operations work through a government branch that also focuses on ideological subversion and influence operations at the political level and at the social level of different countries. That is the CCP's United Front Work Department. In other words, this government department, which openly infiltrates a lot of different, say, countries and operates a lot of times openly even through their consulates and embassies. For example, if you go to the New York Consulate General website of the Chinese Communist Party, you can find the Liaison Department and the United Front Work Department listed there. Again, this is the political warfare branch of the Chinese military working through the, say, influence branch, the ideological subversion branch of the Chinese government, operating openly on American soil. And they use these, say, same basic structures in just about every country, including in Australia.